we go!
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to episode 4 of Fishin' Outrageous Radio. We have on the line today a special treat.
Your 2012 Forrest Wood Cup champion, Jacob Wheeler. 21 years old, the youngest Forrest Wood Cup champion in history.
What's going on, dude?
Man, I'm just trying to stay warm. Actually getting ready to fly out to head to the Bassmaster Classic. Actually, to work down there for Raffles. So get to some warmer weather. I know that it's a little warmer today, but you know everything's good though.
That's sweet, man. Have you been down to a classic before?
I have been to one previously. I went when I was in 2000. I think it was the 11 Classic. I think it was 11. Yeah, it was 2012 Classic. I was at that one helping out Evan Reed. I've been to a couple of. I haven't never fished the Classic before, so that's something that's definitely high on my priority list and high on the goals. To hit the Classic, obviously winning it would be unbelievable.
Yeah, no kidding. So, what you thinking of taking a stab at the elites at some point here? Or?
Yeah, you know, I truthfully right now, you know, I'd like to move there someday, but FLW, I like the direction they're heading, and they're really listening to a lot of the anglers. I think they're heading in the right direction. And, you know, truth be told, right now with the way things are going fast, and I mean, look, the payouts are getting less and less. I think the Classic pays $100,000 this year. I mean, you know, so the Cup's the highest paying tournament out there. So, I mean, I look at it, I try to sort of see, you know, I hear both sides. There's so much, you know, you get like, oh, you hear a lot of great things about each side, and you just sort of got to pick one and roll with it. And right now, I think FLW is for me.
So, back to Classic, who do you have pegged to win the Classic this year?
You know, one person that the guy is on an unbelievable roll. If it happens, it'll be crazy. But Randall is my pick right now. He's reaching with confidence. And you're at that point in your career. I mean, I've seen the guy's just reaching with confidence. He just knows, like, you know, he goes out every morning. He's thinking, I'm going to jack him. You know, he's got that look in his eye. And so I just, you know, it's his home, one of his home lakes. He's fished there a lot. You know, these guys that know the lake are going to have a little bit of advantage knowing what the weather warming up and what's going to happen, and you know how the fish are going to set up. They're going to be changing all week. So I mean, you know, down there, I think the weather's supposed to be, from the first day of the competition, supposed to be like 60 degrees. So then it's supposed to be like 70s and 68, 70s later on in the tournament. So it should be set up for an unbelievable Classic.
That's who I expected you to pick for the Classic there, and that's who I have picked on fantasy too. So we're on the same page there.
It's true though, man. I mean, Randy just sort of oozes confidence, and I think like you said, you can almost see it in his eyes too. I mean, you've seen it up closer than I have, so.
Oh yeah, that guy. I mean, well, the thing is, you got to look at it when you're on a roll in this sport. You can jump in any tournament and make a top 20. So. With Randall having the knowledge that he has on that lake, there's going to be some guys. Obviously, you know, you can't count out Van Dams and the Aaron Martins and all these guys. There's so many great fishermen in this event, and any one of them can win it. But obviously, being from the FLW side, knowing Randall and seeing, you know, if you look at Randall in the last 4 events, okay, so you got the Cup. He fished 2 opens. He won one of those opens. And then he got 4th in Okeechobee. So he's won 2 out of the last 4 events he's fished, and he got 4th in the other one and got like 20th. So the guy's on fire. It's as simple as that. He's on fire, and you know when you want to be on the bus, the guy's on fire. He's catching him. He's confident. He'll catch him this week, I'm sure.
So I mean, speaking of guys that are on fire, I think we're talking to someone that went from 12th place at the Cup to winning the Cup to 2nd place. And not only that, but James and I are watching you down at Okeechobee, and you seem to have a knack for comebacks lately. What's the deal with that?
You know, it's so funny. First thing, I go out and you have a lot of different things going on. And so you try to figure out what's going on best and what say you had a go fish, catching them on a swim bait or something. Down in Okeechobee, I was actually catching them on a swim bait, and I had some flipping fish, and I had some full bit of jig fish, and had some chatterbait fish and stuff like that. And I was trying to. You just have so much. You try to run everything, and you don't get if you don't pick the right thing the first time, you get in a bad groove. And then that second day of the event, I feel like always those second days of the events, I really calm down. And I either have to swing and I have to just go do what I think I'm going to catch the biggest bag. Truthfully, in Okeechobee, I had a couple areas I spent a lot of time down there. And I knew the areas that I felt like, you catch a big bag, but if you got in a bad rotation, like a lot of these were mats and reed lines and stuff like that. If there was a lot of those fish in those areas, you wouldn't catch those big bags. And so in that particular event, I was just like, hey, I got to go spend all day flipping with a big 1.5 weight and a turtleneck screw bug, and if I can get 6 to 8 bites, and there's not a ton of people on the stuff that I want to fish, I can catch 30 pounds and make the cut. And, obviously that day I caught 27 something. So I think that what makes me do it just makes me commit more. A lot of times I think the first day of the tournament I'm more worried, I'm going to catch a limit, I'm going to go do this, and I think I commit more to what I need to do the whole time. So if I can ever figure out how to catch them the first day, it'd be nice.
So you think, it's obviously a combination of just sort of taking a deep breath and making those right adjustments, eh?
Yeah, sometimes, I'll tell you exactly. Like, one time I did it at Grand. The first day I was in, 90th. And I didn't like the area I was fishing. I didn't like the way everything was setting up. And so the water was up this time. I had, 13-something pounds, which was not that great at Grand. I was, 90th place. And so I went on Google Earth that night, and I said, forget it. And I looked, and since the water was up, the water was down, actually, in the Google Earth picture. And I looked down there, and I found every little hard bottom area within 3 miles of the ramp. And I was like, well, let's just turn on all this stuff and crank it, So I picked up a PT6 and I went and cranked all those little hard bottom areas that next morning, and I crushed them. I caught 19 or 20 pounds off that stuff. I caught 60 to 80 fish off, I caught 60 to 80 fish the whole day. And it was just little stuff like just sometimes you just gotta I'm just switching total different areas. I'm just gonna do something different. Stuff like that is just the stuff that makes you. Sometimes you'll strike out and you won't catch anything, but other times, it seems to work out really well, and sometimes you just make an adjustment.
We actually had a question, since we're kind of on that. James, you had a question from Trevor Zimak up here in Thunder Bay. Maybe you can lay that on Jacob right now.
Right. So this question we had emailed into us. So here's the scenario. It's day 4 of an FLW event. After 3 days now, you're leading by a few ounces. It's noon. You have 0 fish in the live well, and it seems that the area you have been fishing turned into a ghost town. So the question is, what do you do, and what is the best strategy to deal with this situation?
That is a good question. That takes some thinking right there to ask that one. I like that. Pat on the back there. Never thought that one. That's a good one right there. For me, that's probably the scariest moment of an event right there. What exactly? You just asked the question you just asked. When you get down, you're leading the event a couple ounces, and you have to catch them. That one's tough because you have to sort of just roll with your instinct. That's when your instinct kicks in, and you have to just roll with the next thing that pops in your mind. It really just depends on what's going on. It really just depends. Like for me at the Cup, I've had a couple of situations that are like that, but you sort of have an idea what's going on. So say that the area that you went to is just a total ghost town, you have to just change it up. You have to go. Whether maybe you don't have anything you have to roll your dice. You have 2 options. Either you can go to another area that you've had a couple bites in or you know of, or you can just roll the dice and go to a completely different area and try to roll with the same pattern that you've been catching in the last 3 days. Right. But there's a lot of variables to that question, just for the fact that, if it's in the spring, is it warm? There's so many variables what you're doing, but more than likely, I would probably try to, if I'm leading the event after 3 days, that pattern, unless the water's dropping or something crazy's going on, I'm probably going to try to locate an area that I feel like that I can run to and get a handful of bites. You just have to roll the dice on that one because, you know, when you're trying to win an event, it's all about that gut decision, and whatever your gut tells you to do, you got to roll with it.
And that, I mean, it's sort of like when, you know, everyone talks about time on the water just being absolutely invaluable. And what I'm kind of wondering, I mean, you're an All-American champ, I think, when you were 21, and when you had that cup win, you're 22, and so how does a guy your age, you know, just be as consistent as you have been against these guys that just, you know, I don't mean to call them old men, but I guess compared to us young fellas, they sort of are. And just the guys that just, they have those years and years of experience and just those gut feelings.
Yeah, I mean, it really is difficult. Going out in the first year, my rookie year, I was 21 my rookie year, and I was like, you know, I'm fishing against some of the best in the world, obviously, the David Dudleys and the Brent Ehlers, and some of these guys that have been doing it for so long, the Larry Nixons and the Jay Ellises. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. And I remember thinking about that, and you either have it in fishing, you either have it or you don't. And I think sometimes people learn that, like, on the water experience, and I feel like when you get out there and you fish against these guys, you have to totally zone out who you're fishing against, because you cannot, if you're worried about beating Dudley or Ayler or any of these guys, I mean, or Clausen, you're so caught up with worrying about the other angler that you're not going to do what you need to do, and you're not going to fish your purest way, and it's just not going to happen. And to the best of your ability, you're just not going to be able to fish the best of your ability. And so my thing was that my first year, I said, hey, I'm going to just focus on what I like to do, and try to use some techniques that I've used at my house and during the All-American and these larger tournaments I fished, because pretty much I just jumped right in it. From the BFLs, I fished the BFLs 1 year, and I jumped straight into the tour. So I just had to go with what I've learned around the house and everything else. And I think sometimes not knowing everything about the lake it helps you, because you just roll with the conditions. Right. And if you get a couple bites on a dock on a little windblown point, or the first two docks in the pocket, you got that pattern, and you don't think about the 10,000 places that you caught them over the last 25 years in your career. So I think as long as you understand and utilize, you don't worry about everybody else, what they're doing and everything else. I think if you can just trust your gut feeling on that stuff, it really can just run a pattern and focus on what you're doing and try to figure out the fish.
So the Scott Martin Challenge.
Oh, yeah.
How?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That was one of them days, man.
Like there was some. Those were some monster. What was this? It was like 62 pounds combined weight.
Yeah.
I think you had like close to maybe just shy of 31, and he was just shy of 33. Have you seen the episodes?
Oh yeah, I've watched them. I have.
The one thing that I really got a kick out of was you faked that cheer to get into Scott's mind, and I don't know if you saw it, but Scott totally called you out on it.
I know. I was like, this joker. I know. I saw that. I did.
So then it went to, since it was such a good day, you guys decided to do a double feature type thing, and you guys put your cups on the line. So like that, I don't know. In the end,
let's just put it this way: my cup is still at my house.
Okay. I was wondering if he held you to it. Okay, I was worried. Just making sure.
He's like, hey, we take a break, and he's like, hey, let's do a cup versus cup deal. He's like, it's just for TV, it's just for TV. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to bet you my cup on your lake. I don't think that's not really smart, Scott. I mean, I might be like 22 now, but I'm not that dumb. So I was like, is it just for TV, just for TV, just for TV? I was like, all right, that's fine, I'm in. If it's just for TV, I'm in. But yeah, he did call me out 100% on that deal when I was like, yeah, I'm catching this one over here. Or, oh yeah, Scott. But the only thing that I couldn't say, because when I went back to that one little mat and I caught him, I'll tell you, I got to tell you an inside story on this. And this is only for you guys and the viewers, and hopefully Scott doesn't, but don't let this get back to Scott. So there's one point in time that show that we go out, and he's like, hey, let's get away from this mat, because it was a mat that they were just loaded in, obviously. And so when we get away from the mat, and let's go do some other stuff, Mike, sounds good. Started the second show, we're going to do some different stuff. I was like, all right, so I'm going to go check a trap prop, because that's what I love to do in Florida anyway. So I go throwing that trap prop, and we're catching a few here and there. And I get back on this one mat, and I'm messing around, and all of a sudden, it's like an hour into the second show. I'm like, where's Scott at? He's back over there on that other mat we caught all our big ones. No joke, he was. I called BS on that deal. I said, now that is some garbage. I was like, I see how you play. So he went there with it for an hour by himself to go jack. I was like, oh, that's wrong, man.
Oh, I see. Now Scott's gonna have to come on the show and tell us his side of the story.
Hey, you know what? And he's out there. He's gonna explain himself on that one. I'm calling him out. Scott Martin.
Can we expect a rematch ever again on the show?
Scott and I are really good buddies. I like Scott a lot. A lot of respect for the guy. The guy's won a lot of events in the FLW, and I think six FLW major events. I mean, the guy is he's a great fisherman, and he's really savvy. He's on top of things. I'm pretty sure pretty soon, it might be this year, we're going to have to make something up. But I told him that if we do it again, he's got to come up north and fishing at one of my lakes.
Right, that sounds fair.
I think it's fair. I was like, look, we'll really put our cups up then. It's like, hey, no, Scott. That guy can catch them all over the country.
Catches them all over the country, everywhere we go.
I'm sure we'll pull something up, because that's actually got a bad taste in my mouth after that one.
So being a northern boy, and I think we saw on your website you said your favorite lake was Champlain. Is by any chance are you a closet smallmouth angler or what?
You know what? Truthfully, I grew up in the Midwest, so I haven't really had enough time to really spend out there out there deep and mess around the smallmouth. I spent a little time doing it, but being around I'm right around basically a lot of these little reservoirs. And the reason I like Champlain so much is just the fact that place is just unbelievable. I mean, you can go to Thai, and it sets up like a reservoir, and you can catch all these giant largemouth in June. And then later in the year it gets, the smallmouth will start, really turning on. And they're biting all the time, but, it's the only lake in the country you can run one way and you run into a bay and catch a lot of these lakes anyway. The only lake in the country that we fish, professional events at, you can run into a bay and go catch a 5-pound largemouth and then go flip a sailboat or catch a sailboat with a drop shot and catch a 4-pound smallmouth. It's one of those lakes. It's special.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've watched events on that lake for years, and I can't wait to get down there, because it's just like you said, the variety in that lake. It sets up cool, man.
Yeah, if you go down there in June, that's the thing. In June, it's dominated down in Ticonderoga. It's just something about how that place sets up. Most of the time it is. And, whenever you have an event down there in June, it's always dominated down there. I mean, it was last time I was down there in June in practice, it was just some of the best fishing I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, you could literally, I got on a little pattern where you're flipping like hydro or milfoil mats, and they were just like little isolated ones, and every single one you went to, it was like a 4 to 6 pounder. Every single one. It was just like, what?
That's awesome.
You just don't catch like 100 a day doing it.
Oh, that's cool, man.
So it's pretty awesome.
All right, so we're gonna shift gears here a bit, and I got to ask you about something that's got to be exciting for you. They're bringing you into the next MLF event, the Major League Fishing.
Yes, I'm more than stoked about that. I mean, it's a crazy group of guys. Obviously, Jason Christie's in there, one of the right now, bass fan #1 world ranking. I mean, the guy's on fire. Also, you got who all you got there? You got some really good fishermen though. You got Chapman and you know Fletcher. A lot of these guys just absolutely crush them. I mean, Chris Wayne and I mean Cliff Pace. I mean, you got some studs in this thing.
Definitely. I mean, it's you've like obviously you've been watching them over the past couple years.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I got every single one recorded on my DVR.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I used to get. I mean, sometimes I get sweaty palms watching FLW events, but no one else can usually be in the room when I'm watching an MLF event.
No, that is. It's just something special about having to go out to a lake, and that was something that I mean when they called me up and asked me, hey, would you like to be, you know, we want to invite you to fish MLF next year? And I'm like, yeah, I'm in. Yes, well, count me in on this thing. I mean, it's just something that it's pretty cool. It's just a totally different way to compete, and it's really fishing at its purest form.
Exactly.
Because you go out there, and a lot of these guys out there on tour, you can get a lot of information, and a lot of people do, and it's legal. But this is sort of something really cool because you go to a lake, nobody knows what it is. I mean, the rule is as soon as we get the information that what hotel we're supposed to go to in this first event, we cannot get on the internet to look on the surrounding lakes. We can't do anything. We can't even get public information.
So we have another question from. We had a Twitter question come in from a guy named Jeff Gustafson.
Oh gosh, Gusty! I was down in Florida with Gusty. I don't even want to know what he's gonna ask.
So, well, he's from a smaller town just a little bit north of here. Anyways, his question is, it's just super simple. It's 4 words. Who's your favorite Canadian?
It's Jeff. It's definitely Gussie, I guarantee you. That dude is the coolest guy, hands down. I'm not going to lie. We had an awesome time when we were down in Florida. He sort of got away from, we all got away from all this snow and all this, and this ice, and, I mean, that guy is hands down. I mean, he's a fun guy to hang out with. He is, dude. He's an excellent fisherman.
Oh, that's cool. And you know what? Speaking of Canadian guys, we saw that you posted that little video clip of that bag that you and Casey had. Was that were you guys just out fun fishing for a day? Was that a small event, or what was the deal with that?
Okay, so what that was is this is like a little event. We had a bet with one of Casey's close friends, and we on this lake. I was like, look, guys, we're gonna go to this lake. Nobody talks anything about it. It was not Okeechobee, but there's a little lake that just absolutely has them down in Florida. And Casey hadn't been there. They heard about it, and so other guys, I'm like, let's go. So let's just go fish it. And they're like, hey, we want to put a side bet on it. I'm like, all right, best 5. We have 3 hours to catch them. Go. I'm like, all right, bring it in. So we come back in, and they get all smiling and giggling, and we got, you guys better have them. And Casey's sitting over there like, yeah. And he's like, what do you guys, I'm like, I'm trying to mismatch them a little bit. Like, what do you guys have? And they're like, we got them pretty good. We got a couple 8s and a 7. I'm like, no way. He's like, yeah. And they're like, well, what do you have? Like, you know, he asked Casey, like, what do you have? Like 27. And he's walking up. He said 27 because he had 27 like 3. And he's walking up. And he's like, man, Casey's going to hate this. Casey's going to hate this getting his butt kicked by me. I'm laughing. I'm like, dude, you don't even know what's about to happen. You don't know what these gorillas that live in this live well right here. I'm just going to put my hand in this live well right now. I'm not going to lie. So we bring those big ones out, and it was just, I mean, it was one of those days. I'll tell you a story from that day real quick because I just loved that. I mean, it was that awesome. Yes. We were flipping mats, and it was a big cold front, and so all these fish pulled off. They're all like staging up underneath these mats, and Casey flips into a mat and he hooks one that's like 10.5 pounds, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this thing's like giant. He's trying to pull it. I'm like, and I just flipped further up in the mat because Casey was flipping the edge. I was flipping up into the mat further, and I go down and I kneel down and I lip his fish, and while I lip his, I give it to him, and I have one fault me, like right when I'm getting up, and I set the hook, and I go in and get this one, and so his weighs 10.5, and mine weighs 8 pounders. Double up on a 10.5 and an 8-pounder. So that is when you know you're having a dang good day. I don't know what ever the biggest double ever was. That was like, that's a next level double enough deal.
Yeah, no kidding.
I'm like, where does that ever happen? I'm like, I wish I had that on a GoPro. Like, I mean, I wish I had that on video because that'd have been. I'm like, what in the world?
So is that the biggest bag you've ever put together before?
Yeah, I mean, 40 pounds. I mean, like, yeah, that was crazy. I mean, I've caught some 30-pound bags in tournaments and stuff like that. But even fun fishing, yeah, that's the biggest bag I ever put together for sure. Especially, yeah, hands down.
Yeah, those things are absolute donkeys, man.
I was like, oh my gosh! I mean, we were like hooking 5-pounder. We're just like, that's a chicken. Oh, that ain't a big one. That's a little guy. Don't worry about it. Don't worry.
Man.
When that doesn't happen very often, though. Trust me, that does not happen very often.
Yeah, no kidding. No, that's awesome, dude. So this year, this is the other thing I want to ask you. Rumor has it that the Cup this year might set up pretty good for you on Lake Murray. What's the deal with that?
A trooper, I've never been to Murray. No? I haven't. I've never been to Murray. I've seen the Cup. A couple of events they've had out there, yeah. But I've never fished. I've heard it fishes shallow, and I know that there's also some offshore stuff to catch them on. But you know, obviously, I'm not pre-qualified like I was last year, so I don't know 100%. I'd obviously like to qualify for that event. That's the number one priority for this year. But I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be a cool event. I think there's going to be ways to catch them shallow and. The thing that I love catching shallow, hands down. And those Cup events, you can really, you know, it's such a tough time of year to fish that you have to sort of decide how you want to fish the event. And I'm the kind of guy, if I can get 5 bites shallow and 5 bites deep, I'm going to go shallow every single time, as long as the quality's the same. You know, as long as the quality's the same. So, but I feel like it should be a cool event. I mean. There's some big fish in that lake. There really is.
So the next stop on the tour is Hartwell. You had a top 40 finish there, I think, last time you were there. How confident are you going into that event?
Well, Hartwell is one of those places that, you know, it can be dominated by that deep bite. The last time we were there, what happened was we had quite a bit of rain right before the event, and it was warming up. Waters was about 55 degrees on the main lake, 54 to 55 degrees in the main lake, and up in the creeks, it was all the way up to 58, even 59. So I don't think we're going to have those conditions necessarily this year. I like Hartwell. I like lakes that, you know, in the spring you can do a lot of different things. You can mix it up. You know, the thing about Hartwell is, like I said, it'll probably be, you know, last time Brent Naylor caught him out deep on a football head and catch him on a spoon and a drop shot and stuff like that. The guy catch him off the timber lines out there. And what happens, you know, on those southern lakes, everything deeper than 40 feet, they stop cutting the timber at 40 feet. So you basically have that timber line and these fish set up in these timber lines, and these guys find these giant schools of fish. So, I mean, that could be a huge deal, but for me, I like it. I like the way it sets up. I like the lake. I think you can do a lot of different ways, and you can fish your strengths. And I think that'll really, as long as we get a little bit of warm weather, so those fish get up there a little bit shallower, like I like them. I like them up there in that, like, I want them up there in that, like, 3 to 6, you know, 3 to 6 foot of water. If they get up there in that little stained water, and I can put that little number 5 shad wrap up there and crank some banks and put the trolling on high and just keep on rolling, I like my chances.
Cool, man. Well, I think we're about out of time here, Jacob. Maybe you could just end with sort of your. Why don't you give me your best piece of advice you got for young anglers that are wanting to go somewhere with their fishing? What would you say to those kids?
I think the biggest thing. I mean, growing up, I didn't have a boat, and I didn't have a boat until after I won the All-American. And there's so many people that will tell you that you can't do it, or hey, that's a stupid dream. And for me, I mean, it was I can name. There's tons of people that told me that, but you never give up on your dreams, and you have to be smart about how you do things, and you have to go out there and you spend your time and you can go to school and get an education to where you can go and you have a backup plan. Always have a backup plan, but the thing is, never let anybody tell you can't do it. And if you really want it, the thing is, you're going to have to work for it. It's not going to come easy. The thing is, nothing in life that's good is going to come easy, and that's just simple as that. It never does. But, if you're willing to go out there and sleep in your truck and rough it and get after it and try to fish every event you possibly can and be on the water as much as possible, that's the way you're going to make it happen. And, I remember going to when all my buddies were out, having a good time, and at parties, I was back home looking at maps and tying jigs on and making sure everything is set for the next day in the tournament fishing. And that was my top priority. So it really just depends on what you want to do in life, and never let anybody tell you can't do it.
All right,
that's awesome, man.
That's some good advice. I can't thank you enough for taking the time out to do this. Obviously, we want to wish you the best of luck this year and going further than this year, and in the MLF events and all that. And can't thank you enough for coming out.
Yeah,
I
enjoyed your stories, dude. You're gonna have to come back on the show one of these days.
Seriously, you guys are some cool cats. I mean, it just must be around a place right around Gussie. All you guys up there and Thunder Bay, all up there, y'all guys are good guys. So we're gonna have to do this again. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.
Definitely. Well, you know what? Maybe one of these days when James and I make it down to Florida, you can take us out to punch some mats, and maybe we'll take you out in the big water for some smallmouth up here.
Hey, I'm in on that. I'm definitely in.
Awesome, man.
All right, thanks a lot, Jacob.
All right, guys, you have a good night.
You too, buddy.
See you later. Bye.
All right, that was episode 4, season 2, Fishin' Outrageous show with Jacob Wheeler. And you know what? I had a blast talking to that kid, man.
Well, it was a really good show. Quality guy there.
I love watching Jacob fish on FLW footage, and I mean, I had just as much fun. I probably had more. I had a lot more. Let me be honest. I had a lot more fun talking to him. He's a real cool kid, class guy, and
well, I know he had me on stitches on the floor there for a little while talking about Scott Martin's show. So
yeah, we'll have to see what Scott thinks about that. So anyways, you can find me, Scott McGill, on nationalprostaff.com, as well as on Facebook and on Twitter at McGill_fishing. And hopefully, like you said, maybe I'll get some sympathy follows if you keep posting my 300 followers at the end of the show. So
if you're listening to this, follow him,
yeah.
So I don't have to hear about this anymore.
Yeah, especially you, Jacob. I'd like to thank my sponsors, Imperium Baits, Salmo Canada, and BioEdge Fishing Products.
And don't forget, Fishin' Outrageous Radio has a Facebook page and a Twitter page, so make sure you check those out. You can find me on the web at jameshillfishing.com. You can find me on Twitter at jhillfishing. I'm on Facebook and MPS too, so you can check me out there. I'd like to thank Crestliner and Smith's RV, Big Ed's, Imperium Baits, Voodoo Customs for keeping me stylish, and Chronicle Journal. Without these guys, there's no show, so I'd like to give them a big thanks. And I guess until next one, have a good one.